was just what a common sense, a political, when their victims should be put first. Also, it became controversial because she said her organization supports Western civilization. I was surprised that that was brought into focus in the manner it was. And in the spectrum of history, as she pointed out, Western civilization has brought many benefits to this world. So, again, I'm just here to say I support her presentation, and what it was about is common sense and just following the law. Thank you.
Raul Rodriguez, followed by Scott Doyle, followed by Andres Cuomo.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we live in a wonderful country, and I think it's important that each and every one of you has a responsibility to the American people who are either born in this country or legally here. The sheriff is not complying with the law. I support Michael Greer's presentation from last month, but I'm asking you to also take a stand and put the sheriff on notice that he needs to support the American people. That is the oath he took, to serve and protect the American people. Serve, that means that him and every sheriff, I respect law enforcement very much, but I don't respect someone that doesn't obey the law and doesn't want to comply with the federal government and support ICE. It's important that he supports ICE because they're keeping illegals out of our country. They're reporting them. They're not here legally, they should be here. If they want to come to this country legally, allow them to get in line and go through the process the right way. I don't know what you guys are talking about, but it's important that you pay attention to what I'm saying, because I have a message I want to deliver to each and every one of you. But when you're talking to each other, you're not listening to what I'm saying. So please pay the same respect you pay me as anybody else, because it's important that you listen to what everyone has to say, not just me, but everybody in this room has an opinion, has a remark they want to make. I think mine is very important because I was born in this country. I love this country, and I want to continue protecting my family, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. It's important that you take the same stand. I'm sure you don't want none of your family murdered by an illegal, whether it's by automobile, drunk driving, whether it's a weapon that they're going to be using to take your car or whatever. It's happening. The Remembrance Project, there's many people that have been murdered. A member of their family, angel moms and angel dads, have lost a loved one because of illegal immigration. So please, pay attention to what everyone has to say, because it's important that you help our sheriff, help him to obey the law, comply with ICE, and keep Americans safe. That is their number one responsibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Scott Doyle, followed by Andres Cuomo, followed by Paul.
Good morning. I'll keep my comments brief for now and speak more when we get to the actual immigration part of the agenda. Just real briefly for now, I want to say I was very impressed with the initial report and oral presentation from the ad hoc committee. The gist of the report, as I interpreted it, was that you were going to recommend that LASD discontinue all voluntary cooperation with ICE, not required by your final recommendations reflect that spirit. Just one quick thought on the agenda. I noticed there's a lot of attention on the Trust Act, and that compliance with the Trust Act is certainly important. I agree with rights organizations who have argued that both the Trust Act and SB 54 are floors and not ceilings. They're the minimum that Los Angeles County should be adopting as progressive immigration policies. And I would hope that this commission would seek actively to go beyond that minimum and address issues that don't fall under the purview of the Trust Act. One a particular concern is that Sheriff Villanueva has expressed an intention to not allow ICE officials within the IRC, but that he would allow certain subcontractors for the purposes of transfers and other things. And I hope the commission will be actively monitoring and asking questions about those issues as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Andres Kwong, followed by Paul Stock, followed by Keith Hardini.
Good morning, Andres Kwong with the East area. In the agenda, we seem to be discussing LA6 implementation of the Trust Act, when what we should be discussing is implementation of SB 54. As everybody knows, Trust Act was supplanted by SB 54. As you know, former Sheriff McDonald went to bat for ICE, facilitating ICE deportations and transferring 1,223 members of our communities. The vast majority for non-violent, non-serious criminal records. McDonald championed the fight against SB 54, ultimately watering it down. And this weakening of SB 54 has allowed for our community members to be transferred simply for misdemeanors. These are our community members, our family members, our loved ones. Let's be real. Sheriff Villanueva's upset election was primarily a referendum on former Sheriff McDonald. Villanueva won based on his promises to rebuild the trust decimated under McDonald. In particular, by one, narrowing ICE's access to LAC facilities, and two, strengthening protections under SB 54. We have some questions for you to ask to LAC when they make their presentation. ICE apparently has no longer access to LAC facilities, but how are transfers being carried out? And have they explored the potential legal issues with allowing third-party contractors who do not have authority to arrest? Two, what are the procedures for courthouse transfers? We understand that there were 130 individuals transferred from courthouses last year. Why is this happening? What is the list of the 101 misdemeanors, give and take, offenses that LAC was set to announce on February 15th? We haven't seen that list. And how have they selected to take out the particular offenses? We would like to know that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Paul Stock, followed by Keith Hardini, followed by Loretta Tyson.
Morning, Paul Stock with the Youth Justice Coalition. Immigration has been a long history in the U.S., right? It's been taken up by the Supreme Court for many, many years. We can go back as far as 1886, we Hopkins, 1896, Washington versus U.S., 82, Privately Doe, or years later, Savias v. Gates in 2001. But ultimately, they find that in all those cases that due process applies to everybody that's here in the jurisdiction of the U.S., whether their presence is unlawful, involuntary, or transitory. It applies to all people, right? And the due process clause says all persons within the jurisdiction of the U.S. And so everybody that's here has some form of rights. And so there are some forms of protections to people, protections to all. I understand that there are questions regarding harm, people doing things to hurt people, etc. But we're predicated too much on the idea that somebody has to do something wrong. Society as a whole in the U.S. has been that way, right? It's all about retribution. We need to move away from retribution and start talking about resources in our communities to stop harms from occurring to begin with, so that people can flourish and thrive. I just want to remind us all also of the history of what brought the European Caucasians here to the U.S., colonization, 13 colonies, manifest destiny has spread that throughout all this land. This is the indigenous people's land. This was not originally European land. So when we talk about Western civilization, that's what we're talking about. It's the spread of Europe to America, what is now America, which is actually named after Amerigo Vespucci, who was a Spaniard. He was commissioned by the Spaniards to go look further than Columbus had done. And so one of the things that we think about, if we look at the history of immigration in the U.S., even as late as the 1950s, we have things called Operation Wetback, right, sanctioned by the U.S. federal government. I don't know how long we're going to continue to talk about these conversations and keep this rhetoric going on. All right, we look at China's Exclusion Act, we got Erie Act, we look at Alien and Sedition Acts, all things that are meant to keep America white. Let's just be real about it. That's the way nationality and immigration law has worked. That's the way the INA is written and framed. It's meant to be that way. There's been quotas set. You can't bring people in. That's why people are stuck waiting in line 15, 20, 30, 40 years trying to get into the US legally. Right? Those means aren't available to everybody. Those means are not available to people. People flee other countries for simple reasons. Because their lives are endangered. They need somewhere to be safe. Same thing with my family. My family fled Southeast Asia because of failed American policy in the US when they put in a puppet government and they decided to leave. And all our families had to leave and come here. And then when we came here, nobody looked after us. We got thrown sometimes 9 families into one single apartment with nothing. How do you survive in this community in urban areas, in low income areas? It's very tough for people to survive those type of challenges and those type of traumas. My family watched people getting blown up in front of them, stepping on landmines and stuff, walking across militarized borders to get to the US because they wanted to stay alive. And if we talk about transnational gangs, those things are created here in Echo Park because of failed American policies in Central America. So I just want to leave it at that.
Thank you. Keith Hardini, Loretta Tyson, followed by Brendan L. Marshall.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good to be here again. It's a constant thing that we have to continue to advance the principles of our founding. And I am very thankful to be an American. And I am obviously, I think, a black man, if you look at me. By natural law, it is important to realize that our founding principles were based on those ideas. And I support the idea that Western civilization came and brought us these great ethics of Judeo-Christian or Christianity. And it does not contradict this law, the Trust Act, which I quote from Alexander Hamilton in Federalist 33. If individuals enter a state of society, the laws of that society must be in supreme regulation of their conduct. The propriety of a law in a constitutional light must always be determined by the nature of the powers upon which it was founded. Our laws were founded on Judeo-Christian principles. That's the Western ethic that was brought to America that made America great. And that sort of brought a new ethic of equality for all men. I stand here as an equal subject of the law, just as my white counterparts and my brown counterparts and my Asian counterparts do, if they are American. This is important for the Trust Act. The Trust Act provides for discretion to cooperate with ICE only if the continued detention would not violate any U.S. constitutional federal law or any local policy that does not contradict federal law. And it is the president's priority, which is to take care that the laws be faithfully executed and shall commission all officers of the United States. That's Article 2, Section 3 of the United States Constitution. We need to sort of constantly bring those points up because people easily forget. It's kind of like the Word of God. When we turn away from God, then we have a sin and iniquity in the nation that just dominates and overrules. We see this in other countries like Venezuela. So what we need to do is come back to the principles of our Declaration of Independence, which states that all men are created equal, and all men therefore must equally be treated in the same light. Thank you.
Loretta Tyson, followed by Brendan Marshall, followed by Henry Porter. I'd like to leave my time to Mr. Porter.
We're all coming up together because our theme is common, and so perhaps I can take a little more than my 3 minutes for their time also. Basically, I want to just read it. Is there a problem with that? Okay, I thought that. Anyway, basically, all I want to do is read a letter that I sent to the sheriff and a copy to the board of supervisors regarding our concern of Julia and the anti-Westmont community, which is serviced by South Los Angeles Sheriff Station. I'm going to just read this verbatim for you, and I'm going to leave a copy for you here that you may have. This is to the sheriff. This is dated January 22nd, 2019. While there are many concerns over the new direction of the sheriff's department based upon your platform by running the sheriff, two of the many concerns are of immediate concern to us. Number one, fulfilling your commitment to review the files of 300 terminated deputies, rehiring those you feel were unjustly terminated. This is of concern because everyone terminated had due process through the civil service process, which is thorough and lengthy. Bringing those deputies back along with the 300 or so where credibility is such that they cannot testify in court will tarnish the image of the department. It will also lead to increased disrespect and mistreatment of residents because deputies will know that you have their backs. There will be no fear of discipline. The same holds true for the low deputies already on the department. They are now more emboldened to act more openly than under the previous administration that required accountability. Number two, you have started that rehire process by hiring Carl Manzanilla. Based on the allegation of domestic violence, stalking, etc., the expectation of self-control, fair and impartial treatment of residents is non-existent for Mr. Magnolia. You brought Magnolia back and assigned him to South Los Angeles Station. This sends a clear message to us of your perception and lack of respect and concern for the communities serviced by the station. This move further reinforces our belief that your loyalty and commitment to elevate service and protection for residents and stations within the East Los Angeles area is of paramount importance to you. Thus, we end up with a deputy of Mandion's character. While what we are doing may be within, while what you are doing may be within your legal authority, it speaks volumes to moral compass of fairness and equity. We will do everything within our legal bounds to prevent you from dumping your formerly terminated deputies and or your known road deputies on South Los Angeles Station. Our communities deserve better, and we are willing to push for equality at our station. I have been a volunteer with the department since 1997. I have always felt comfortable defending the department when necessary regarding any policy. But I cannot and will not do that anymore, given your stated objectives and vision for the department. Request, as a sign of good faith, remove Magnolia from South Los Angeles Station and respect our communities by using your rehired, formerly terminated deputies at our station. We deserve better. One last thing I would like to recommend strongly, is that you take these core values that was operated by previous administrations, you suspend them today. Because what these talk about, they talk about honorable performance of duty with respect, integrity, and wisdom. Under the new sheriff, these are contradictory to what his platform has designed and what he is proposing. So I'm asking you to take a look at these core values and that you suspend them immediately and have him come up with some core values that will be conducive to what he intends to do with this department. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Deborah Fall, followed by Michael Greer, followed by Scott Glenn.
So I'm going to before I vote, but I just want to add my support to those who have already spoken on the idea that it is highly important that we provide due process and equal protection to all people who reside in this county, no matter how they got here and no matter how they are living their lives in their homes, in their communities, and their neighborhoods. They deserve our protection, they deserve our support, they deserve our nurturing so that they can become full and remain full contributing members to our communities. I am dismayed, if not worse, by Sheriff Villanueva's attempt to bait and switch the community by using contractors in the jails rather than ICE agents. I agree with the ACLU's statement that this in fact could make our communities and neighborhoods less safe, not more safe, by bait and switching them and getting their trust, what's the word, in a non-correct, dishonest way. I think that the recommendations of the Oversight Commission do seem to address most of my concerns, and I do hope that you all will stay strong in your recommendations, that we create a bright line between federal immigration authorities and Los Angeles County, and that we not doubly punish people who have already served their time and who deserve an opportunity to go back into the community and make good lives for themselves and their families. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael Greer, followed by Scott Doyle, followed by Kane Arteaga.
My name is Michael Greer. Last month, one of your members was offended by my saying American Freedom Alliance was concerned with the threats to Western civilization. I spoke to her after the meeting and asked if she thought Western civilization was a dog whistle for white supremacy, and she said she did. And that I should choose different words. We are living in dangerous times when terms and words are redefined to mean something they were never intended to mean. And paint people negatively for using them. Western civilization created governments of the people, not of government, where all men were created equal and justice was blind. They brought more people out of poverty than any other system. They protected the liberty and individual, and allowed self-determination. The liberty of individuals allowed innovations that made our lives safer and more fun. Light bulbs, cars, planes, radios, television, cell phones, computers. Is the system perfect? Does it achieve all it promises? No. But it aspires to, and it creates a system that is the fairest and freest for all who live there, regardless of race, religion, or creed. It's the inception of Western civilization. Yes, the inception of civilization was mostly white. Because without planes, trains, and automobiles, migration wasn't as widespread as it is now. Western civilization may have been created by white men, but it created the highest standard of living for all, even the poorest. It created a system that benefits all, not just white people. It's divisive to suggest anything developed by white people is racist. Do white people seek their own self-interest? Sure, as do blacks, Asians, and Latinos. It is normal for people to seek what is familiar, to become more comfortable with people who share their values and culture. This is human nature, not racism. If we are to ever live peacefully with each other, we need to stop demonizing human nature. Before last month, no one had ever suggested to me that Western civilization was synonymous with white supremacy. We actually have members and donors in our organization of every race, religion, and creed, and not a single one of them has ever made that suggestion to me. And Western civilization is definitely not synonymous with white supremacy. I don't intend to choose different words, and I will never stop working to protect Western civilization. Thank you.
Scott Doyle, followed by Kane Arteaga, followed by Lorene Asanas.
I already spoke.
Kane Arteaga,
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to speak on behalf of my younger brother who passed away at the Twin Towers facility approximately 13 months ago. So he passed away on the 21st of January, and he was then transported to the USC medical facility down the street. and his body was revived, and then he was declared dead 4 days later, effectively removing any liability from Los Angeles Sheriff's Department because it didn't occur in their jurisdiction. I find that unacceptable. The homicide detective that was assigned to the case went ahead and made the call and determined the case, the cause of death, which was then passed on to the LA County Morgue's office, which just then regurgitated it and just put it on the paper, verbatim exactly what it is that the sheriff's or the homicide detective had determined. I've been inquiring as to why that occurred, why they never actually adhered to the agency's policy, which requires the use of force policy requires them to reach out to the DA's office to have them come down and do an on-scene investigation, an administrative, a criminal investigation, which could run concurrent with an administrative investigation. That did not occur. Why? Because they don't adhere to their own policy. After several months of getting the runaround, I came down here to the Twin Towers facility and inquired as to why my brother was still listed on the as an inmate at the Twin Towers facility. Why is he still there? I didn't get any answers, any responses. So I reached out to several departments within the agency, to include the Internal Investigations Department, the Homicide Department, the Media Relations Department, and they just kept, referring me back and forth to the same personnel. So long story short, I was told that there was going to be an investigation, right, that would take up to a year. Well, on the 24th of this year, I reached out to a Detective Woodruff, the detective that was in charge of the case out of the Homicide Department, and he told me that it was already resolved months ago, a year ago. So yeah, I'll be back up here. Thank you.
And we make sure to give your name to staff so that we can follow up with you.
Yes.
I also have a question as to whether you guys have either the Inspector General or to the City Oversight Commission.
I recently found out about your guys' agency here, but I've been inquiring about this for months. And like I said, the the Sheriff's Department representatives just keep referring me, keep giving me misinformation.
All right, perhaps the Inspector General can someday speak to you, if you need to that.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Lori Donovan, followed by Stephen Boss.
Good morning, I'm Lori DeSotis. I was not present last month or the last meeting, but I am here to say I support the presentation that Michael Greer gave. And that I do support law enforcement, I do support ICE to work in the LAPD jails, county jails. And that's what I'd like to say. I am a lifelong Californian. I want and I expect elected officials and enforcement personnel to exercise the oath that they were sworn when they took office or took position. And that oath is to the Constitution. And that includes protecting citizens and legal residents, the key word, legal residents, to protect us from enemies, both domestic and foreign. And here's what's so peculiar. Domestic, obviously, in our country and our local arena. And yet our state does everything it can to pander to federal lawbreakers like illegal aliens, and including the practice of SB 54, giving them special rights to criminal aliens. So indeed, those are foreign invaders in our domestic arena. So please recall that it's your duty to protect the citizens. Thank you.
Stephen Boggs, followed by Rose Reese, followed by Milena Janikovic.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the opportunity to come here and talk. I believe that for the people of LA County to have effective oversight of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, it's imperative that we have a system and a process for filing a complaint, a system that actually works. And that's not my experience. A simple incident on November 1st prompted me to complain. And so on November 2nd, I called the park superintendent where the incident took place, but he couldn't take the complaint. He made a few phone calls and called me back and referred me to the LA Sheriff's Department. And I called the watch commander that he referred me to, who didn't take my complaint, but instead debated the merits of my complaint. I didn't want to waste time debating with someone that obviously wasn't going to take my complaint. So I asked for a supervisor. He said he didn't have one. And I know that we all have supervisors or oversight. So I went on my own and found the captain. And I spent a significant amount of time, a couple hours, talking with the captain. It still didn't manifest itself with a complaint, in spite of my intentions, desires, and actions. I pursued it. I went to the county board of supervisors and I spoke there. I was directed to the executive department. I was directed back to the supervisor's office. I was finally directed to the county hall of records where I attempted to file a complaint. There I was told I needed to go to Benelli Park. I showed them the paperwork on their desk that said I could do it in person, by phone, on a piece of paper. And I said, can I just speak to a supervisor so I can file a complaint? One supervisor appeared, didn't take my complaint, instead directed me across the street to the Hall of Justice, where I found in the bowels of the Hall of Justice, the dispatch center, and I finally found someone who could take my complaint. And that was quite a bit of a journey. I don't think that a reasonable person would do what I'm doing. It's been 4 months, almost 4 months. So I'm not here to tell you I'm reasonable, I'm here to tell you I'm stubborn. But I'm also here to tell you that I think the bigger issue in my complaint, which by the way, was about 2 simple tickets written by one individual to 2 people, the exact same tickets, one of which was reversed and one of which was upheld. So even when I pursue the process of complaining or contesting a simple thing, the results don't indicate that this system works. And so my name's Stephen Boggs. And I'm here for your assistance because I believe that we deserve oversight and it has to have a system and a process that works. And I'm the evidence that it doesn't work. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Rose Reese, followed by Milena Janikovic.
Good morning. My name is Rose Reese, and I also support the process for everyone, regardless of immigration status. I am the daughter of an undocumented father and mother. They came over to the United States during the Chinese Exclusion Act, in which the only way my dad could come over was to buy a paper indicating that he was a citizen, because only citizens were allowed to come to the United States. We bought the paper, and thus you might be familiar with the term paper son. My dad worked very hard. He came here to make a good life. He worked very hard, and it was 10 years before he could bring his family over. And at that time, once they landed, I was born. And I still recall my childhood where we were living in fear because Aunt Susie was coming over and she would face interrogation at that time on Angel Island, which is comparable to Ellis Island. And we had to make sure all our facts were squared, otherwise there were chances that we could be deported. Well, this went on for a while, and thank goodness for ex-President Ronald Reagan, who granted amnesty to 3 million immigrants. And my father and mother were among those selected. And since that time, my family has taken advantage and contributed to the community. I have a nephew who is a doctor, a niece who's a teacher, and I myself went into project management. So our successes are only because we want to contribute to the community. My in-laws were also had their experiences because they were Japanese. And as you recall, during World War II, there was the Japanese internment camps for the Japanese, and these were citizens, they had done nothing. And there was a 442 battalion, which is composed of Japanese American citizens who signed up in the army to fight for the United States. And they were one of the most decorated battalions. So there's a lot of these instances where immigrants have contributed to the U.S. society for the good. And so now we have people coming from different areas because different parts of the country, because of warfare in the country or gangs. And the United States has been very receptive of these immigrants until, it's been very extreme since the 2016 elections. But I'm glad for our California State Legislature that passed SB 54, the California Values Act, to help our community and protect our community so that these people can make a better life for themselves, because that's all we want.
Thank you. Our last speaker for item 2, Helena Janikovic.
Good morning, just very quickly, I wasn't here last month, so I don't want to take all of 3 minutes. Actually wanted just to make a general comment about the agenda this morning. And that is that I see that we're debating or discussing the implementation of the Trust Act. So I wasn't sure why exactly that is the case, because we're in 2019 and the Trust Act is an old law from 2014, which I believe was supplanted by SB 54. So I'm more interested in hearing about, very current and present problems with the entanglement of Sheriff's Department and federal law enforcement. Very specifically, we have heard that Mr. Villanueva is not allowing in the jails anymore, and that perhaps ICE is now replaced by contractors, corporate contractors. Not exactly sure what's going on, but my point is it would be great to get a lot more information on what exactly is going on right now. Thank you very much.
We're done. Thank you, everyone. We're going to have a presentation from the LA County Sheriff's Department, and it's Commander Maura Jean, I believe, for some reason. Laura Holmes, pardon me. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning to give you an update on the department's changes in regards to the civil immigration matters. Hopefully we can answer a lot of the questions that have been brought up from some of the speakers. I've had the pleasure to meet many of you here at the committee. town hall meetings and jail tours. Most of you are aware of past policies, practices of the department as they regard to civil immigration matters. Today, I'm going to give you a short PowerPoint presentation which highlights 3 areas that we have changed due to new policies implemented by Sheriff Villanueva. After my presentation, the Office of Inspector General Shadi Cardon will also show you a PowerPoint which gives more of an overview of the Trust Act, the Truth Act, the Values Act, and how our department is complying with those 3 areas. So I will start the presentation here. Like I said, there's 3 items that we'll be reviewing. The first one is the removal of the ICE agents from our jails, the misdemeanor conviction list that is used by our department, and the detainer notification form. Removal of the ICE agents. As of February 1st of this year, agents are no longer permitted in any of the sheriff's facilities to conduct any civil immigration matters. Again, I think the key there is civil immigration enforcement. Civil immigration interviews are no longer conducted within the sheriff's department facilities. And the transfer of inmates, of any inmates who do qualify under SB 54, the Values Act, for civil immigration detainers are completed by contract transport officers. In other words, inmates that do qualify under SB 54 are still being transferred to the custody of immigration. The misdemeanor list we looked at and the previous list, conviction list, had 151 crimes. The time frame for that list, the reach back was 5 years. The sheriff has decided, after looking at it, after reviewing the list, after talking to a lot of advocate groups, that he would take about 1/3 of those crimes away from that list, and it became 101 crimes that we left on the list. And he also made the reach back 3 years versus 5 years. And the last thing we have changed is the detainer notification form, due to the fact that our old notification form talked about some of the rights that the inmates were given when they were being interviewed by ICE, and the fact that ICE might want to interview them, but due to the fact they're not there anymore. So we changed the form. One of the things is we affirmed the department's no interview policy, and we added the public defender's phone number that was on their request, or by their request, and we also removed the ICE's phone number that was in the original list. I'm going to go over just the release process, because I think those are a lot of the questions that have gone up, of the current release process without the ICE agents in the jail. So what will happen is the contract transportation officers arrive at our seat at our what's called our compound. They'll enter our jail through our salad court. They'll eventually go to what we call our custody line desk, where they receive paperwork for the transfer of the inmate. They eventually go through a release hallway, where they eventually show up at our property and money, our cashiers, and they pick up the property and money of the inmate that they're going to be transporting. They then go back to the custody line desk and they wait there until the inmate is brought to them by our deputies. Our deputies will escort the inmate. And this is kind of a photo of a picture of our cameras. Usually on a daily basis, occurs about between 9 in the morning and 12 in the afternoon. I'm not sure if I can get the little pointer here, but it doesn't work. But everybody out here on the left side of that picture are either the officers or transport officers from other agencies that are there to pick up inmates from our custody when we do an in-custody release to those officers or those transport officers. So that's our current policy, and we are now doing that same policy that we have all the other agencies do. So this is a summary of the changes. The ICE agents are prohibited from entering any jail facility for civil immigration matters. The misdemeanor conviction list was reduced by 50 crimes in the time frame to 3 years. And the detainer notification form has the department's policy interviews, no longer has ICE phone number on it, and now has the public letters phone number. And that is the presentation of the three items that have been changed since February 1st. I'll let come up and give her a presentation.
I would like
Questions now or afterwards?
I would like to hear from the presentation from the OIG and then ask questions.
We have a speaker signed up for both presentations also.
Yeah, you're gonna stay, correct?
Sure.
Okay, please stay, so. Now, this way, the information we'll get now will kind of clarify for everyone some of the changes in these different acts, and then we can go to the questions.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Morning, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to see all of you again. So I want to talk a little bit, dive a little bit deeper on the three changes that the commander just talked about. The new sheriff has made some big promises about immigration and the big policy changes that have occurred. In fact, just recently, LA Times was cited saying that he has a comprehensive plan that's going to mark a deliberate shift on immigration policy. And so here we are today, and we have three things that have changed. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into them and talk about whether they are deliberate shifts on immigration policy, and if they have any impact on the changes on the past policy that were implemented by the previous sheriff. But before I do, I want to bore you a little bit about the law, because I think there's general confusion to these terms that we use all the time. The Trust Act, the Values Act, and I just sort of want to break down what each of them in summary stand for. As we know, the Trust Act that was in effect since 2014 basically sets out standards for how local law enforcement can respond to ICE holds and detainers. Most importantly, notably, a list of qualifying transfer convictions. Those being the list of charges in which local law enforcement can transfer individuals into immigration authority custody. Now, in 2018, the Values Act, Senate Bill 54, went into effect. It essentially replaced the Trust Act and is now the current law. It did place more restrictions on how local law enforcement can operate with ICE, but again, it kept the qualifying convictions listed in the Trust Act and only, am I too loud? No. Oh, they can't hear me. That's embarrassing. Kept the qualifying convictions listed in the Trust Act with a 15-year time limitation placed on some of the felonies. There's a list of what we commonly refer to as enumerated felony list, and those are the ones that now have the 15-year limitation based on them. All right, and lastly, the Truth Act, which we talked about, which went into effect in 2017, that essentially is a notice requirement. What that means is that if a detainer has been issued by ICE, then an inmate must be provided a copy of that. In addition, this requirement requires something called the Truth Act interview, so that if ICE does have access to an individual, they have to be notified of that. They have to be told their specific rights, like a right to an attorney, for example. And most importantly, they have to get consent to that interview. And then Truth Act also requires that certification be given if it makes basically to ICE, and that same notice also be given to that individual's attorney or a designated individual. Okay. Now I want to talk a little bit more about the thing we constantly say that individual was qualified for transfer. So as I stated before, that the Trust Act and the Truth Act, I'm sorry, you see now I'm confusing that. The Trust Act and the Values Act, and AB 4 and SB 54, did not change the qualifying charges that are felonies remain the same, convictions of a felony punishable by state prison have remained the same, the conviction of a felony enumerated in each of these acts have remained the same, with one difference being the time limitation, the washout period. In the past, in the Trust Act, it could be at any time, and now in the Values Act, it has to be within the last 15 years. Now, as far as convictions of misdemeanors, they have also stayed the same. They are technically what we call wobblers, because they're punishable by either a misdemeanor or a felony. And
That is the discretion that they used. In 2017, 1,223 individuals were transferred in total. 1,142 of them were again felony and state prison. Only 81 of them, approximately 7% of the total amount. I bring this to your attention to point out the discretion, the fact that misdemeanors do not seem to have much of an impact on transfers. Now, in 2018, SB 54 was passed. Now, remember, a 15-year time limitation has been placed on the enumerated felonies, which affected the total amount of numbers transferred to 947, 725 felonies in state prison, misdemeanors being about 220, results to 23%. At that time is when the last administration implemented their 151 misdemeanor crimes list. I bring this to your attention again because the big deliberate shift on immigration policies is to reduce this misdemeanor list that was just done last year in 2018, and only by 50, meaning there's still 101 crimes under the law that are misdemeanor charges that still remain. I also bring your attention to the Truth Act interview forms and the numbers that relate to that and how the administration. There's been a lot of discussion about these ICE interviews that occurred within the facilities, and I want to kind of point out impact that has had in the custody facilities. Now, these numbers are from May 8th, 2018 to September 9th, 2019. The reason I have used these numbers is because we already just published these numbers in our last report back. So I just wanted to bring them back and sort of focus on them a little bit again to point out how they have not truly impacted any change. So in the 4-month period that we talked about, there was a total number of 27 interview requests made by ICE officials to speak to individuals. The number that did not have retainers at the time were 19. The number that did have retainers issued were 8. Now, the department's policy at the time was to make sure, and this was not required by law, but they wanted to make sure that any individual that ICE had access to while in their custody was qualified. They would have their custody assistants make sure and go through the list to make sure that individual was qualified. Once that individual was qualified, they would, as required under the Truth Act, that inmate would have to consent to that interview. So knowing that, out of the 27, as we broke it down, 3 of those individuals were qualified. Now, out of the 3 that were qualified, only 2 consented to be interviewed by ICE. 1 did not consent, and therefore ICE did not have access to that individual. Out of those 2 that did consent to be interviewed by ICE, none were transferred to ICE. It's my understanding, reported to me by the department, that the reason for that is because ICE, through their interview, those individuals were actually citizens of the United States. Now, I would like to point out to you that, again, these changes that have been promised by the new sheriff, taking ICE out of jails, reducing these number of misdemeanors, ICE interviews are no longer occurring, everything has a new progressive plan, comprehensive plan has occurred. So I want to sort of go step by step and compare what was happening in the past to what is happening now. Now, I'm focusing on the inmate reception area because that is where ICE agents, sworn personnel used to commonly walk into and interact with the process. So the stations and the courts, to my knowledge, have not changed any of their transfer policies. So really our focus here is on IRC. The 4 boxes that you see in front of you are 4 things that have to happen before any individual is ever transferred from local law enforcement to ICE officials. The first is that an inmate has to be booked, and once an inmate is booked into custody and their fingerprints are taken, those fingerprints are automatically sent to the FBI and to an immigration database. After that occurs, a detainer is issued by ICE, and that detainer is sent to the department, usually a copy is emailed to custody assistants who are handling the transfer. Now, a copy of that detainer and the truth act form that's required is then given to the inmate. The inmate is then qualified by custody assistants under SB 54. Now, in the past, the prior ICE transfer procedures were that since ICE agents, sworn officials were present, they would then confirm the inmate's release date via a monitored IRC and or the LASD public website. This is a public website we know that shows the exact same information that was available at IRC. It used to update every 20 minutes to the public website, and my understanding now is that it updates every 5 minutes. Once the agents confirm that information, they would then arrange for transportation through their transportation agents they obtain. And the inmate's transfer paperwork would then be picked up. That transfer paperwork is basically information to allow, documentation to allow those transport agents to then pick up the inmate's personal property and their cash, if they have any. The next thing that would happen is that transportation officers that are retained by ICE or the ICE agents themselves would pick up the inmate's property and money. And then finally, the inmate would be transferred from IRC release area where they were housed straight to the transportation officers retained by ICE to pick up the inmate. That is the prior ICE transfer procedures. So I'd like to compare those to what is happening now. Current ICE transfer procedures. Now, sworn ICE agents are no longer at IRC. So, ICE agents now confirm the inmate's data of their release date via the LASD's public website, which, like I said, is now updated within 5 minutes of what is up at IRC. Then, custody assistants email the inmate's transfer paperwork to ICE and ask ICE to arrange transportation. Then, custody assistants walk the inmate's paperwork to the IRC custody line area, which sort of triggers, there's a transportation officer on their way, make sure that they get this paperwork. Even though there's a copy has already been emailed, I think they do a duplicate just in case the email didn't reach the transportation officers. Now, once the transportation officers arrive, they then walk over and retain the inmate's property and money, as they did before. And then, because the inmate is now housed still at the release area where they were previously being transferred, IRC custody line deputies then escort the inmate from the IRC release area to the custody line area. And at that point, the inmate is transferred from IRC custody line area to the same transportation officers that were retained by ICE to pick up the inmate. Those are the 3 changes that have been made. I believe, I submit to you that the impact it has is little, if at all, and that there's not been a deliberate shift on immigration policy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Carden, and are you gonna say questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Great, stay right nearby, both Commander and Deputy Superintendent. Okay, commissioners, let's rock and roll.
Yes. Number of questions. First of all, I want to thank the Inspector General and Secretary Shadi for her really impressive comments and support, and I think that that's really. On the other hand, Commander Morahan, it's frankly unfortunate that the sheriff is not here, nor is the undersheriff, Leyva, not here, because I think both of them need to hear a lot of questions and comments and concerns. Supposedly, this is supposed to be a comprehensive plan. We on the commission have been making numerous requests for material in writing, policy in writing, and frankly, I think your presentation today was, Commander Morhan, was pretty, but it doesn't answer any of the questions that we have been trying to determine in terms of what is the current sheriff's policy on immigration, and where is it written aside from this very superficial presentation in PowerPoint, which frankly doesn't say much of anything. I mean, I feel somewhat concerned that I'm berating you when we really should have the sheriff here to explain this. And after all, we are tasked with being oversight, and it's been an insult to have this presented. So with that, aside from the fact that you have no apparently written policy on this, can you explain about these contract officers that are now picking people up at IRC who were determined to be qualified, and how are they different from actual ICE agents? It seems to me by changing the name contract agents from ICE agents, and I frankly find all of this a sham. So, can you help me, please?
That's right. So policies and procedures, because of the new changes, they do take time to implement, right up. We do have them now, so we could provide those to you, not here today, but I provide them to the board. We have policy, we have unit orders, we have custom division manual policy orders that we have that talks about how we do all of these things, all these changes. And as far as the transport officers, this is nothing new. These transport officers or agents have been doing transports not only for ICE, but they do it for other agencies. They do extraditions from out of state. They do, if Orange County or Riverside or somebody, another small department has a warrant on someone where they cannot come and pick them up, the individual, and they contract with these transport officers. These transport officers are under contract with them to come to the inmate reception center and pick up these individuals. So that's what is occurring now with ICE. But again, it's nothing new, it's been occurring for, I've been there.
But why is it that it appears that as part of the picture of supposedly not letting ICE in the jail anymore, instead of making reference to the fact that, as you say, this is nothing new, on the surface it appears that this is a big change, and it really isn't, apparently.
Well, the transfer of the inmates is not that big of a change. I think the amount of transfers, I think, will be noticeable in the long run. We've only been now for 2 weeks, right, with ICE agents inside the jail. I think it's important for you to know that there's a lot of the detainers come in two different ways. One is through a perk detainer once they're fingerprinted and they're arrested and they're issued to us. And the second is through what we call an LA detainer that's issued to us by the ICE agents at IRC. Since they're not going to be there at IRC, that I believe is going to really diminish. In other words, these are individuals that were not flagged when they were fingerprinted, when they were first arrested, but between the time they're arrested and the time they're being released, now the ICE agents have come up with information that they now would like to detain an individual. I believe that's going to minimize the amount of detainers issued at IRC, not having the ICE agents present.
How is it that, what has been the process in going about paring back the list of misdemeanors? How did the Sheriff's Department do that? Did the Sheriff's Department consult with
county council, consulted with the IG, you certainly haven't consulted with the Oversight Commission. So what was the process that the sheriff went through to pare back the misdemeanor conviction list?
Well, as you know, I gave a presentation to the board of supervisors, I believe on December 18th. And I believe it was Supervisor Solis at the time, requested that, because one of the points was that we were gonna look at the misdemeanor list. And she requested that, we make a group or invite people to a meeting, which we did. We had different groups, OIG was present, and we went over all of these things over here today. The misdemeanor list was discussed. We asked for their opinions. We asked for their thoughts on which charges should be taken off, maybe left on there. And eventually the sheriff made the final decision with his team as to what charges were going to be left on there. So the charges that were left on there are mostly all serious or not serious crimes, sex crimes, and gun crimes. All other ones were taken off.
Is there some reason that there was no request for members of this commission to be involved in that decision?
No, there was. I noticed that.
Yeah, I'm more than one. When do you expect we will have the all of these written policies that you talk about?
Do we have them all completed? Yeah, they're all completed. So once they're requested, I understand you say you requested them.
We have on numerous occasions.
Okay, I'll look for that paperwork and we'll provide it.
Can you,
Reserve
as soon as you can?
absolutely.
Okay,
Right, I will.
quick follow-up, who pays for these contract transfer officers?
Homeland Security. We do not, the county does not.
The county does not pay, the sheriff's department does not pay, it comes out of federal
Absolutely,
budget?
yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure where it comes from, but it's not coming from the county.
Okay. That would be good information to know exactly where it comes from, but we'll find that out. And I'd like to turn to Commissioner Bonner.
Who are these officers? Are they sworn officers in various LEAs?
They're not. They have no peace officers, arrest powers or anything like that, so.
So how are they charged?
Charged, what do you mean by
What are their
charged?
responsibilities and who hires them?
Immigration hires them, the individual departments hires the company, which in turn hires their employees. And it's under a contract,
And who vets these companies?
they do.
Okay, so that's ICE?
Whoever, I mean, you know, particularly we're talking about ICE here, yes, so ICE.
So ICE contracts with them and
Right.
so, and it's federal homeland.
I believe there's two companies that they use currently. There's two different companies that they use currently.
All right, and you will be requiring around some more specificities about this, who these companies are, so I'm sure we'll be able to get that information. But I want to thank you, I want to turn it over to Commissioner Bonner.
Thank you, Commander Moran, thank you for being here. I want to ask you a few questions about the paring down of the list of crimes under SB 54. I guess from 151 down to 101. Which crimes did the sheriff or the sheriff's department decide should not be, if one is convicted of them, should not subject that person to essentially being transferred to ICE's custody?
Well, I don't think I'm gonna go over all 51, I can give you a short sample of the crimes, once I provide you with, I can provide you with a list.
Let me just say, by way of background, you probably know. That qualify for essentially will permit the sheriff to transfer custody of persons convicted of this crime where they live in the United States to federal police. Sexually
question goes there, by the way? I have a list here. Right, this is right out of the statute. No, right, okay, so it, the sections, are listed as penal code 245.6, 187, 191.5, 192, 192.5, 1222.7, 1222.8, specified it, but not limited to those sections. Right. You know, I don't think I'm gonna back myself into the corner here and tell you every one of those, but I can give you the list and I can tell you which crimes, the list will show which ones were taken out. Like the 245 we just mentioned, that's still on there. One of the 192.5 is not on there, was taken off. Okay, so, that's helpful. What about, felony drug offenses? If somebody is convicted of the sale of methamphetamine, is that now excluded by the sheriff from what would otherwise qualify as transfer of custody to immigration authority? County code is, right? Or is that on the felony list? First offense, sir. Right. It's a wobbler. It's a wobbler, okay? It can be punished by state prison, it could be punished by misdemeanor. I mean, it can be punished by county jail. So I'm asking you, you're here to present for us. Can you tell us whether felony drug offenses, if there are any of them that are have been excluded by the sheriff for transfer of custody to federal immigration authorities for a person convicted of those crimes and in the United States illegally? Let me ask my expert here on the actual law.
There were no changes made to the felonies.
I didn't hear that one.
He said there was no changes made to the felonies list. So if somebody's convicted of selling or distributing drugs, they're still, if they've been convicted of that, even though the punishment's county jail time, they're going to be transferred to custody federal immigration authorities. Yes or no? Yes, if it's a felony. Okay. What about bribery? Bribery of a public official, is that, are those, any of those penal code sections excluded? You know the section on that by any chance? Well, it's in 7252, 7252.5, it's the penal code sections listed or specified in, but not limited to. Penal code section 67, 67.5, 68, 74, 85, 86, 92, 93, 137, 138, and section 165. Would you like to read the list? I'd like you to provide this commission with a list. I will be, whatever it is, the 50 or so criminal offenses that could potentially carry state prison time. I'd like you to provide those to the commission today if you can, Dan.
I can provide you with the misdemeanor list of the 50 crimes that were taken off the misdemeanor list. All right.
That would provide you that. That would be a wonderful start. Do you agree that one of the primary duties of the sheriff of Los Angeles County is to assure for the public safety of our community? Of course. Right. And so before you develop this list, or the sheriff developed the list, which excluded 51 criminal offenses, the conviction of which will not result in essentially a transfer of custody to ICE. Before you develop that list, was there a written analysis of the public safety impact of the action that the sheriff is now taking?
The only written analysis that we have is looking back at historical people that we have turned over to ICE. And I believe as the PowerPoint showed, prior PowerPoint, all 81 misdemeanors that we have transferred in the past have all been for one crime, which is this spousal assault 273.5.
What is 273.5?
Spousal assault.
Is what it's called? Spousal assault. So has that been excluded from the?
No.
Oh, I see. So in any event, I guess my question to you is there a written analysis that was prepared by the Sheriff's Department of the public safety impact of excluding these 50 or so crimes from which would otherwise qualify under SB 54 for transfer of custody to ICE?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So I have a few questions, both for you, Commander, and for Ms. Cardin. One thing I think is interesting is the point that you just made, Commander, about keeping the spousal domestic violence. I wonder about that, the nature of that oversight. The question I have, I guess now, or I guess those are more comments, less questions. So my questions now, I guess, for Ms. Cardin about the OIG's analysis. So one of the three major changes that the commander talked about the Sheriff's Department making has to do with the removal of ICE agents from the jails. But from what I understand, from what I just heard from the commander, the contract agents that are responsible for the transfers are funded by Homeland Security based on contracts with ICE. So I'm wondering, is that a significant change if in fact these contract officers are funded by security, which is a contract which is associated with ICE, which oversees ICE. So that's my first question. The second question has to do with the number of misdemeanors that were subject to transfers or detainer requests, the 220 that were in 2018. I wondered if you have a theory as to why there was such a significant increase from 2016 to 2018. And then I'll pause there and have a third question.
Thank you. As to your first question in regards to the transport officers, they are contracted out by federal agencies, and I hope I made it clear in my presentation that they are the exact same transportation officers that we used in the past. ICE agents themselves were not the people that were physically transporting these individuals to ICE facilities. It was the transportation officers, the same transport officers in the past that it is now. Does that answer your question? Okay. And as to sort of the variation in the numbers, kind of skipping to 220 from 0 to 81 to 220, it's because of the number of misdemeanor crimes. This is my theory. I think it's twofold. I think it's that the number of misdemeanor crimes that were initially put on the defense charge list back in 2016 were only 2. 2 out of the 150 some that were available, there was only 2 that were listed. And let's not forget, those are all wobblers. So at some point, the department back in 2016 and 2017 classified those as for felony convictions only, and then changed that in 2018. So in 2016, since only 2 qualified, out of 100 and something, it would seem sort of, obvious why there's only 0. 2017, when it went up to 81, my understanding from what the department told me, that additional charge that was added was for the 273.5, which is the law of domestic violence abuse. And that, I think, was the actual trigger for that many misdemeanors from being transfers at that year. Then it wasn't until 2018 when that 151 misdemeanor list was created, the one that's now has 50 of those removed. And also the other note, I think, why there's been a difference in numbers is that the 15-year time limitation that was placed on the enumerated felonies under the SB 54 Act. And I think Proposition 47, if I recall correctly, may have also impacted some of those changes as well. Yes.
So just in terms of the change, the shift, so if we're looking at 2016 to 2019, the change has been to extend the number of misdemeanors that are included in terms of the qualification list, because if I understand you correctly, there were only 2 in 2016, it grew to 81 in 2017, to 150 in 2018, but was mostly driven by one misdemeanor, the spousal battery.
Yes.
And so really the sort of taking at the margin in terms of the 50, that's not really what's driving the number of people who are being transferred for misdemeanors. Is that a correct summary?
When we use all of those numbers, I would agree with you that in 2016 and 2017, there was only 2 and then only 3 misdemeanor charges that we used to transfer individuals into custody of ICE. Then was 150, and now with the current administration, there's 101.
And from, I know you didn't do necessarily a public safety analysis, but has there been a sense that Los Angeles County was fundamentally less safe in 2016 than it was in 2018, for example?
I wish I had the capability to make that assessment, I unfortunately do not.
Okay, I just think it's an interesting question. Okay, thank you.
I wanted to go to Commissioner.
Excuse me, can I just say something on transport, just to make it clear that prior to February 1st, it wasn't only transport officers doing the transports. If the transport officers were not available to do the transfer, because they're not always available, then ICE agents would make the transfer, the inmate would take the custody of the inmate. And starting February 1st, that is not allowed anymore. So if the transport officers are not present or not capable of taking an inmate, ICE officers cannot do that. So that's.
So I'd like to clarify that. So you see a big difference between ICE agents going into the reception center, the same as agents, contracted, transfer people who are paid for, contracted with ICE, paid for by Homeland Security. You see a difference between the transport officers controlled by ICE and ICE agents. You see that as a big change.
Well, there's definitely a difference. The transfer officers, that's all they do. All they do is go there and pick up an inmate. That's it. They do no legwork as to whether that inmate is here illegally or not. That is the job of the ICE agents. So the ICE agents are the ones that create the detainers. They're the ones that, let us know that they want a certain inmate, and they're the ones that do the legwork on the inmate. And then once they want them, we vet them. If they qualify under SB 54, then it's ICE agents' responsibilities to find their transfer officers to come and just pick up. They have no other interaction with them at all.
Okay, I'm really fine.
They never have.
Okay, I have to just tell you that I find this, I feel like there's a little shell game. I look under this shell, or I look under this shell. It seems to me, you make a statement that ICE is not in the jails. A very bold statement is on your PowerPoint. But yet the agents, the contracted agents of ICE are coming in and doing that transport. So I personally, I really do not see the difference. So we'll just leave it with that, and let's go to Commissioner Thompson.
Sure, Gates, thank you. I don't want to be repetitive in nature, so I'm going to forego my questions to Commissioner Rubin. But I do want to say, sir, I think you're very unprepared to come before us today. And if you would give us some type of concrete paperwork and policy that you govern yourself accordingly to, that we can scrutinize ourselves, that would be very helpful.
Yes.
Yes, a couple of follow-up questions, thank you. One is, when you got all of these groups together to discuss reducing the misdemeanor list, but didn't include this commission, did you include anybody from the district attorney's office?
They were invited.
Did they come?
No.
Number two is, if, as you described, if a contract transport officer is not available and the inmate is ready to be released, as you say, under the sheriff's new policy, ICE can't go in and get him, so what happens to the inmate? He's released.
That's right.
And then ICE will go out and look for him in the community, potentially endangering other people.
I can't speak for that, but
Yes.
they can.
Is it contemplated, because I know at some point in one of the statements the sheriff made that he was contemplating removing the website that would give the public and ICE information about inmates and those who are ready to be released. Is Is it the sheriff's written intention to maintain that website, or is that still in flux?
As of today, his intention is to maintain that list.
And about tomorrow?
As of today, that's his intention, unless I hear otherwise tomorrow. His intent is to keep it.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomasino.
Following up with Commissioner Egan's questions, how many, I guess maybe a period of time, like 2018, were transported by ICE agents as opposed to contract officers?
We don't do this statistic.
Do they, these contract officers and ICE agents, they wear different uniforms
Yes, they do.
and they're distinctive?
Yes.
And when the inmate is informed about he's about to be picked up by these contracting officers, do you know exactly what they're told who's picking them up?
I don't know what exactly they're told, but they're told that they're being, released to the, as an custody release to Homeland Security.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ocean.
I'm really interested in the addition of the spousal battery misdemeanor to the misdemeanors, qualifying misdemeanors list. Either Commander or Ms. Cardin, I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit about the deliberations or the thinking that went into the adding of that misdemeanor to the qualifying misdemeanor list. It sounds like it was added in 2017. Yeah, can you tell us a bit more about the process?
It's just the information that I was given, I don't know what the thought behind it was, what analysis went through, I just know the sheriff was kind of out of this list.
Yeah, it's either way, the sheriff and all that, we wanted to add to the list.
Is it possible that when you, Commander, when you're submitting any of the policies or documentation, if there are any memoranda associated with the addition of that misdemeanor, that also can be given to the commission?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that you've heard from my colleagues, my fellow commissioners, expressing almost an embarrassment in terms of the information that we've gotten today. You know, our role as oversight and as our role as a bridge to build trust between the community and the sheriff's department, we take that role very, very seriously. And it's very hard to provide oversight when there's a lot of confusion, contradiction. There's a lot of other adjectives that I could add, but I don't want to be too provocative. But I think you've heard, unfortunately, the executive director from the sheriff is not here today either. I believe, I'm sure my colleagues will concur that we're gonna write a letter to the sheriff, really asking for more information, but also asking for a cease and desist of confusion and chaos, because we are not able to do our jobs. We cannot do oversight if us even being invited to a critical meeting about immigration, which we have a whole ad hoc committee and a policy that we're bringing forward, that if we're not even invited, is another indication of how we are unable to actually, at this point, to really perform our jobs in the way that we want to do. So right now we're going to take a break, but thank you for coming. You're the only one that's here with us today, and I know you got 2 ears full, and I know you will bring this message back. But we are really we really need to see a change where there is not double speak, triple speak, quadruple speak about immigration with the LASD. So let's everybody take a break. Same time.